On Monday night, we went through the crazy win over the Bills, and now we're going to preview the Cowboys matchup. Who knows if that'll be another crazy suspense roller coaster thriller? Probably. That's how we do things. But the Vikings are 8-1. The Cowboys are 6-3. The Cowboys need to win to stay pace in a suddenly competitive NFC East division. So we're going to walk through some of the items that are afoot for us. The first one, Ron, I'm going to ask you about is this damn injury report. Out of the bat, we already know there's no Lewis Seen, there's no Irv Smith, there's no Cameron Dantzler. On this Wednesday's injury report, we have either not practiced or limited Christian Darrisaw, Caleb Evans, Justin Jefferson, Zadarius Smith, and Dalvin Tomlinson, which should make you go, yuck. What do you think, Ron? Do you think almost all of those dudes play, or what's the story?
Well, the Tomlinson one, I'm not sure about because I know he's missed the last couple of games as it is. The other ones, from what I've heard, Darrisaw, he's in the concussion protocol, but he was ready to get back out there on Sunday. So, assuming the baseline part checks out, I'm sure he'll be good to go. Excuse me. The other ones, I don't even know what some of those other injuries are. Like obviously, Caleb Evans, I know he missed some time. But you know what? At this point, we've had a relatively clean slate when it comes to health most of the season. So at this point in the year, I'm sure Brian can attest, no one's 100% healthy. So some of these I'm hoping are just, maintenance days and they're on the list just because they have to. So we'll see what happens, but I don't see there's any doubt in Jefferson not playing or, Dalvin Cook. Like those guys, they seem to tough it out every week anyways. So we'll see what happens, but we'll probably know more within the next couple days.
Sally, the concussion protocol men are indeed Darrisaw and Caleb Evans, the rookie Caleb Evans. And then for the veterans, Justin Jefferson, it's a toe, Zadarius Smith is a knee, and Dalvin Tomlinson is a calf. Do those give you any pause, or do you think those will be good to go?
Well, you certainly don't want the injury report to be that long, especially because they haven't, knock on wood, been bit by the injury bug yet this season. And so they've been very fortunate to have that. I'm not too worried about any of the ones that you just listed. Obviously, we don't know how severe their concussions are, but typically I think guys come back in about the amount of time that it will be. And like Ron said, we don't know the severity of these things, but I would assume that these guys are going to do everything they can be to be ready to go. So I'm not super concerned. No. Do we know what's up with Dantzler yet, though?
No, he's on. He won't be back eligible until the Lions game.
He's on IR.
Yeah, he's on IR with that. He had a miserable 3 seconds. He got that cheap ass penalty, and then he got rolled up, high ankle sprain. And I swear to God, in basketball, football, wherever, anytime you hear a high ankle sprain, you might as well just say, all right, that dude's going to be gone for a long time. That's just the way it works.
Right.
You ever had one of those, B-Mac, high ankle sprain?
Remember, I told you my ankle was broke. I didn't know it.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Tell that story. I don't know if I've heard that.
A while later after I got out of the league, I remember I told you I had to spend the night in the training room.
Oh yeah.
With a real bad ankle injury that they told me it was a sprain, and then later on when I got evaluated, the doctor was pressing on the area, and he was like, "Yeah, when did you break your ankle?" And I was like, "I never broke my ankle." And then he's like, "Yes, you did, right here." And crazy thing is, I could still feel where he was pressing. He there was a break here before, and I'm like, and automatically I just flashed back to that's what was wrong with it when I was in the training room when I had to stay the night. Way back.
How much time passed between that?
It was years that passed from when that happened to, him being able to realize I had broke my ankle at one point, but I know exactly when it was because I remember how bad my ankle looked and the blood, going up your leg and stuff like that, inside the scarring or whatever. And then the fact that I remember it took me a while to come back from that ankle injury, from just, trying to recover from it. But I do remember specifically that was the only time me ever injured my ankle and have this, basically stay the night in the training room. I got to go home, eat dinner, and I had to report back around 9 or 10 o'clock. And every hour, a trainer had to stay with me for that whole week. And I had to do treatment every hour. And I didn't practice that week. And then we just taped it up really good. I played in the game. And it wasn't my best game because I was trying to act like I wasn't injured. And I feel like after a while, somebody realized that, does he have an issue with his ankle? His right, foot or something. And yeah, but
when did that happen in the season? Like, how far into it were you?
I was it was somewhere like mid-season or towards the end.
Oh, okay.
When it happened, and then I just probably feel like it took me like another like 4 or 5 weeks for it to like really like get back to, you know. But yeah, I did it.
How?
But I didn't know any better either. I thought it was a sprain. It was a bad sprain.
Where do you sleep in the training room, and are you being woken up every hour?
Well, I'm not like they're not. He doesn't really physically have to wake me up, but it's like you can feel the machine go on. So I was attached to like a machine that was I had to keep my leg elevated. So basically, laying on the like the bed where they, you know, the table where they like, you know, do treatment. I just had to lay there. So basically, it's like you just laying flat on your back for the most part, and then your foot is elevated, and then he just had to press the button for the machine to go on every hour or so. So every time I wake up, you just feel like the ice, you'll feel whatever. But yeah. And then it was just like I just didn't practice that week. You know, I just kind of like limped around and sat in meetings and was there for the game plan and everything. And then, you know, just did. I look back at it, I was like, I guess. Like, I don't know, but yeah, I did it.
I got a question, Brian. So we either hear the stories or watch the documentaries about players in your era and before, maybe even now, that would take all sorts of, you know, pain shots or pain pills just to play. Did you ever personally do that, or any of your teammates ever before?
I did it. Well, I know a lot of guys did it. It was a Tourdoff shot. I did it the game. I took a Tourdoff once or maybe twice. I know for sure I took it when we played New Orleans, because that season I had got plantar fasciitis and I had got it in one foot and I ended up having it in both feet. So my feet was killing me that season. And I took it for that game. Like this is a once in a lifetime thing.
Okay.
It's the NFC Championship. I'm gonna just take it and see, you know, how it does. Because my thing is I never wanted to take those things because everybody's talking about how like you don't feel anything. So I didn't want to make my injury worse. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like I have a high pain tolerance, so I would just play just through it, just so I can know where I'm at, and not injure it even more, because like a lot of people say you didn't feel it until come like Tuesday, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't need it to be worse. So I always just played. I didn't play with, you know, taking it, but I know for sure when we played New Orleans, I took it.
Okay. And then was that a thing where you're like, holy shit, this shit works? Or was it?
It did work because my feet, you know, at that point we definitely, you know, killing me. It did work, and I did, you know, it's just either way. I just felt like I still would have time. Like if we'd have won that game, I would have had time, because then I think the Pro Bowl was in between that or something like that. It wasn't like the right away, or we would go home. So either way, I said, well, it's the time where I'm gonna take it, because we're this close. So I want to be able to play, you know, at a high level and not, you know, think about, you know, bottom of my feet hurting.
Okay. Sally, I wanted to ask you this, as you continue your journey into the Queen of Enthusiasm about the Vikings under Kevin O'Connell, are you one that really needs to or wants to see a blowout win at some point to think that this is the real deal, or are you past all that?
You know, now that you mention it, I of course would like that. I think that would be that would be more convincing. Not necessarily even for myself, but I think for other people. Sure. And I think we're all probably getting a little sick about the narrative that's going around, which we can talk about more in a little bit. I would love to see it at least once or twice this season. I mean, we got total domination. I think we would all agree in the Packer game. And now that you mention it, this might be kind of my fault, because I remember sitting there and being like, you know, it's always great to blow out the Packers, but I'd like a little more action. This is a little boring. Now that I guess be careful what you wish for, right? So, yeah, it would be amazing if they could blow out the Cowboys, especially with the struggles that they've had with them the past. I don't know. You mentioned they've never won. They've never beat beat the Cowboys in US Bank Stadium. And those have all been brutal games to watch. So I would love for it to happen. And this would be a great game for it to happen, since we really don't care for those guys too much. I don't think so. Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice. But to me, like we've said this whole season, good teams find a way to win. And that's all that really matters at the end of the day to me.
The last time the Vikings beat the Cowboys at home, Bryant McKinnie was on the field. It was week 6 of 2010. It was Moss's first home game back. And Yeah, the first game was against the Jets. That was on the road with Moss, and that was week 5. And then, he showed up, and I think they won by 3 over the Cowboys.
Wait,
Okay,
the
I'm
playoffs.
that's what I was thinking about the playoffs. That's
Yeah.
what I thought.
Yeah, there was that one as well.
So that was the year before.
Yeah.
The season
That was
before.
in the Well, it's 34-3 or something, wasn't it? Like
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, because I remember
Brian,
that game challenged kind of me and Phil Low because they had 2 good defensive ends, DeMarcus Ware, and I can't remember who the other one was.
It's gonna hit me.
And I knew that was just a challenge for us, and they feel like, okay, we rose to the challenge. But I know they had like Marcus Spears and like all those other guys, so they had a good defensive line. But I remember that specifically though, because I had a challenge. My challenge was DeMarcus Ware that game.
It's funny because I remember that game, and obviously, like the ass whooping we put on him. I know Ray Edwards, I remember, had a big game. Our D line obviously was dominant, but I remember Keith Brooking. I think it was, Keith Brooking was their linebacker that got pissed off at the end of the game. And I don't know if he was taking cheap shots, but he definitely wasn't happy with the score being run up. Now, obviously, it being on that side of it, and it's like, well, stop us if you have a problem with it. Like, we still got games to play. You guys could go home, whatever. But as a player in a situation like that, when the game's decided, and like, obviously, there's that sense of pride, but then also, you guys are professional athletes, so if you don't like what we're doing, stop it. Have you ever been in a situation like that? Again, college is different because not everyone's a pro, but in the NFL, it's like, I don't get why people again, what are we going to do? Just put on or knee it down 3 times and punt it? And
not in the NFL, but actually in college I have, because I remember my senior year we played University of Washington, and they beat us my junior year, and that's the only team that beat us my junior year. And it was by 5 points. We came back at the end and just didn't have enough time. And then when they came to Miami and played us, I think we scored like 60-something points on them to 7. And they just said it was like unsportsmanlike, on our behalf for running the score up and things like that. But when we came out in the 4th quarter, you still had guys like Willis McGahee and Roscoe Parrish and those guys, Frank Gore, who still wanted to score. So it wasn't really the first team anymore, but they just felt like we were just
back then was different too, though, because the way that the BCS worked, like, you weren't guaranteed a spot in the championship or in that matchup, because I know points differential was a big part of that calculation.
Right.
So back then, teams would run up the score. Like, I remember Auburn in 2004 got screwed because they were undefeated, but they didn't have a chance because it was Texas USC, I Bleav.
Yeah, but as far as pros, I don't never recall it being that bad where like a player was just super mad because we ran up the score.
Brian,
so that was probably the only one.
I think it was DeMarcus Ware and Anthony Spencer. I think
Anthony Spencer.
Those were the 2 that you're probably talking about.
Purdue kid, yeah.
Yep. I think I know the answer to this, Bryant, about Vikings hopefully beating a team convincingly. If you were still playing right now and you were on a team that was winning every week by less than 8 points, would you look around and say, we need to start beating some of these guys' asses? Or would you say over and over, doesn't matter, win's a win?
I would like a game, or, at least 2 or 3 games throughout that season to be something like we just went out there and just really just put together a complete game and really just kill somebody, just beat somebody. But I don't know, because I feel like we've always had a couple games where it was like, okay, you can tell we're going to win this game, especially like Detroit. So, but yeah, I would like to see that, just so especially the whole game, so it's like a nail biter the whole game too. Like, sometimes you can relax a little bit and actually enjoy the game and know you feel confident winning too.
Yeah,
because that's nerve-wracking, like going down to the final wire of like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But then when it goes your way, you're definitely happy, but it can be nerve-wracking.
Mentally, yeah. Too.
Ron, I don't think it will happen this game. I think I have 27-20 Vikings. But for me, the reason I'd like to see a relaxing win is because that's usually what Super Bowl winners do. When you look back in hindsight at the numbers, they have convincing victories. Not every game is a barn burner. Now, if this is all we can get, I'll take it. But just to adhere to history, the law of averages, it would be nice to beat a team 31-14 or something. Do you need to see that for a litmus test, Ron?
So I would like to see it at some point against a quality team because I want to see that we're capable of that. Like I want to see the Kirk Cousins stats from last year with the freedom and recklessness a little bit that he's playing with this year. Like just I want to see that come together because we have the talent. But now that, again, it looks like there's that freedom of like, hey, if you make a mistake, it's okay, but we're gonna find a way to get 18 the ball. We're gonna, put it in the hands of our best players to let them make plays. Now, on the flip side of that, like I've always been a big believer. Again, I've never played any sport at a high level, but I feel like these tight games and finding a way to win, like I think you learn a lot more from those. Just like you learn more in a close game than you do, you learn more in a close game than you do in getting your ass kicked. But it's probably easier to move on from the blowout. But like this team is becoming battle tested in a very significant way because
I seen a clip, of the guys on the sideline before the fumble, and they were still on the sideline like, oh, we're still got a chance. Yeah. So it's like they didn't have that mindset like they might have had a couple years ago, like, oh, here we go again. They were like still like up and ready to fight, like, no, we still can do this. We still got a chance, which anybody would want to see. So I like seeing that. I don't know. They had like a soundbite that they posted either on the NFL or the Vikings page that showed that, which is a good thing because that means the morale is there and everybody is really believing that they can win.
And the belief, like that's the, shout out Bleav Network, but the belief is there from the guys, like, and it's the leadership on that defense, like Patrick Peterson, Harrison Phillips, like, Harrison Smith, obviously these guys, they're staying in each other's ear. And there was a moment when we were after the Dalvin touchdown when, I think it was Zadarius like, all right, let's get back to it. Like they don't lose that confidence, but then what that's doing, it's again, no one individual is bigger than the team. They're playing as a unit. And then the offense comes out and does their job. And then the defense comes back out and, Patrick Peterson makes the pick. He makes the game saving interception. So again, when I say they're battle tested, it's like, again, with your Ravens team, you guys got hot and beat, Hall of Fame quarterbacks, like some of the best to ever play en route to a Super Bowl. So why can't it happen if you become battle tested through a season that, you get hot at the right moment and put it all together and again, play for the guy next to you and go from there.
Let's see. Sally, the last thing I want to talk about is the way that the national viewpoint has been more impressed with the Packers hitting 4-6 than the Vikings beating the Bills. It's been more of a talker that the Packers are allegedly back. They play tomorrow night against the Titans. What do you expect from Titans-Packers?
Well, I haven't watched a ton of Titans football this year, admittedly, but I know that they are doing pretty well. And obviously last year they made the playoffs. They did good last year. So I do think that will be a good test for them. And on a short week, I don't have as much faith. Well, listen, we don't have faith in Aaron Rodgers, period, as much as we used to, but on a short week especially. So it will be fun to watch, I guess. Hopefully. Speaking of the narrative, since you just brought it up, I feel like early on in the first day or two, it was not that the Vikings beat the Bills, it was the Bills self-destructing and Josh Allen making mistakes, right? Which is fine. However, since then, it has changed into just excuse after excuse to not acknowledge that they beat that team outright. I saw Mina, who I usually respect on ESPN, saying that Dalvin Tomlinson and Cam Dantzler, those injuries don't compare to what Buffalo was dealing with. So it wasn't, a legitimate win, she was insinuating. I don't really care about the national media so much. I like them flying under the radar. But can you imagine if Kirk Cousins had the game that Josh Allen did, what the narrative would be? He would be completely getting roasted. Those clips would be playing over and over and over and over. And I just don't understand the disrespect. I really just don't.
I think everybody projected Buffalo to do a lot better than what they're doing this season. And I think that's where I think their focal point was going towards was Buffalo, and they're now kind of giving them excuses of why they're not the team that everybody hyped them up to be. And Minnesota has low-key been flying under the radar, but right now it's tied for the best record in the league. And nobody's seeing this coming based off of, I guess, like last season's performance. And so now it's like you have to kind of acknowledge it, but they're still like saying like the Ravens or like the, Buffalo are still up there. Like it's like teams that have been beaten, but they're just not really giving Minnesota is just due. Minnesota's still ranked. I see on some of these power rankings like number 3 and not even number 2.
They're
Even
like
though
on
they have
7 on some of them still.
and that's
and I think, Brian, to your point, like, because the Bills, I think, at least going into the game on Sunday, they were still a Super Bowl favorite. So
they
it's
still
like,
are by
people
Vegas.
yeah. So they're making excuses for it, like and it's not like they're saying that Josh Allen was hurt and he didn't look like Josh Allen, because he looked every bit of Josh Allen that there is, including the flaws of, some of the poor decisions, poor throws that he's capable of. Like, he leads the league in
they were
interceptions.
home.
Yeah, no, they're not going to talk about that. And he throws a red zone interception after red zone interception. So as great as he is, he still has that gunslinger in him, which it's one of the reasons why he's so great. But yeah, like everything with like the one that I thought was hilarious, and I'm just going to read it because it's from Chris Sims. So like you get these guys who are obviously like they're usually good at what they do, but okay, the Vikings earned that win over the Bills, but I'm still shocked they did it. Watching the all-22, if you had taken out the scoring plays, I would have thought the Buffalo won by 20. What the hell does that even mean? Like the scoring plays, you mean the significant plays that matter? Like, because
Right.
then if you eliminate that, then every drive of the Vikings ends in a punt or missed field goal or an interception or something. So like, how do you even get to that? Like, just give them credit where credit's due. Like, and we can criticize them. Kirk had he sailed KJ over the middle, and then he threw that terrible pass to the flat. No one will, only Joe Spinoza, whatever his name is, will blame someone else on that. But they bad throws. He was bad. But then he brought them back from 17 points with 2 minutes left in the third quarter to win the game, like, or to help in winning the game. So it's okay to point out flaws and weaknesses in the team, but you can't deny what they're doing. And even the Monday night memes were the best, because it's like, well, remember when the Vikings barely got by the Commanders in a last second or whatever game-winning field goal? Well, they were beating the Eagles. So again, like, I like the fact that they're flying under the radar, because like all those years of 98 Vikings and the 09 team Bryant, where it's like this team just can't lose, you can't see it. Now it's like they're underdogs at home against a team that just blew a 14-point lead. Like, that baffles me. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that the Bills story is a big deal, that they're underperforming, and that Josh Allen has thrown several red zone picks, not just this past week. However, I think that it's okay to tell that story while not bashing the Vikings, like being so negative about them. That's what I don't understand is this. It seems like almost every pundit gets up there and just says, "Oh, they're not for real. Oh, they shouldn't have won." It's like it's insulting. It's not just I don't understand it at all. I mean, even Kyle Brandt, who normally is a Kirk Cousins guy, was trashing him today. I don't get it.
And the narratives that they're coming out with, like, it's like, again, like you said with Kirk, it's if Kirk's making mistakes, everyone's going to criticize him and roast him. So I'm sure Dustin feels the same sentiment that I have, that you're coming around and you're like, into the sense that looking at it very objectively, not that you haven't, but that his play is able to, like, that people are able to see it as it is what it is. But the Emmanuel Acho, when he came out, and his argument was like, because they weren't scared of DeMarco Murray in 14, like they're not scared of Kirk. Like, where's the pair? They're not even making sense with their arguments anymore. It's not I do not understand where they're coming from. But then the same thing, what I found funny is, if you guys watch any of the pregame on Sunday before the Buccaneers Seahawks game, like the question surrounding them was like, or that they were asking was, is this Seahawks team for real? Well, they're 6-3, and are they for real? But the Vikings are 7-1 and they're frauds. Like, that's exactly what it's been, and I don't understand it.
On Josh Allen, I think I know what it is for him, is that when Patrick Mahomes got so good so fast, he got that LeBron-itis with the media that we just got used to it. And he's going to do what he does all the time. And therefore, it gets kind of boring, him being that good. And so I think when Josh Allen started to nibble at Mahomes' supremacy, there was this neurotic obsession to compare them as equals. And he's flat out not as good and not as smooth as Patrick Mahomes, and he never has been. He might get there, but there's a reason the Chiefs keep beating them in the playoffs. That's because Mahomes is a superior quarterback and the best in the world. So I think when the weird stuff happens with Allen, there's a lot of people that don't want to come out and say that their takes about him being, right there with Mahomes. He's just not quite there yet. I don't think anybody is. That's what I got anyhow. I got for Vikings-Cowboys 27-20. Sally, do you have a prediction or a score?
I think that they will win, but I think it's probably going to be one of those that goes down to the last drive again, unfortunately, as much as I don't want it to. I got to suspect that Greg will miss an extra point, so it can't be a pretty number. How about 26-24? I'll go with.
All right, Ron, every game is first quarter score and decent first quarter, second, third quarter lullaby, and then fourth quarter kingly. What say you, Vikings-Cowboys, Ron?
I have the Vikings winning, probably something like a 24-20 type game, because I think it is going to be. I mean, it's not just going to be a air it out, like both teams just putting up a bunch of points. Cowboys do have a very good defense, and the Darisaw question mark will be huge, because if he can't go, and Brandell did a good job of coming in, minus the false start, but Micah Parsons is a monster over on the other side, so you got to worry about that. But otherwise, their offense, their offense has its flaws, like with Tyron Smith not being able to play. I know their rookie Tyler Smith has stepped in and played pretty well, but they're not the same offensive line that they were a few years ago when they were arguably the best unit in the league. Dak is, he's Dak. He's good, but is he great? No, in my mind, he's going to make his mistakes. And outside of CeeDee Lamb, their pass catchers aren't all that great. So I trust Patrick Peterson the way he's playing to lock down that left cornerback spot. They're probably going to move CD around, but we had guys like Duke Shelley and play well. So and we're at home. That's the biggest thing. We're coming off that emotional win and now coming back home. So not comparing it to the miracle year, but we had an emotional walk-off win and then we traveled. So I think there's going to be at least, and again, this team it's so different, like the energy with everything. So the 3:00 game doesn't scare me, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully we come out and hopefully we blow them out. But I see it being another close game, one-score game, but I think we're going to come out ahead.
And as it stands now, we're not playing Andy Dalton or Cooper Rush, so that can only mean good things.
If it was Cooper Rush, I would be a little more concerned, to be honest with you. Dak isn't impressing me at all. He already has, 4 picks? And they gave up 200 rushing yards to Green Bay last week.
So I got a question. Do you feel like so everybody feel like Kurt is playing better this season?
Who?
Kurt.
Yeah.
Kurt.
100%. So do you feel like it was the head coach or the coaching that was around him that was kind of limiting him? Yeah.
Oh, I think he played better last year, but
I think statistically he played better last year.
No, I think he flat out did.
No, right, but I think stylistically, like that freeness that he has, like where he's not afraid to make a mistake, and it's showing because he can clearly make every single throw, and there are throws that he's making that we haven't seen in the previous 4 years here, where like that double covered throw to Jefferson, where he's like, I'm just throwing it to the pylon and trusting my guy. Like last year, if a guy wasn't open, he wasn't throwing it. So yes, like he was putting up monster numbers, 70% completion, a lot of touchdowns, not a lot of interceptions and a lot of yards. But I think this year is more conducive to, like, it's like, again, Brett Favre, he led the NFL leader in interceptions for his career, but no one's ever going to deny his ability because he's just like, F it, someone's down there. So
what do you think is the difference between last year and this year?
I think it's the relationship between Cousins and O'Connell because A, he was a quarterback, B, he's a nicer human, and B, he's an offense-first head coach. I just think it is a modern, supportive culture of a quarterback who's pretty damn good, and I think he's extracting some of that recklessness in a good way from him.
What I'm finally seeing now too is some of these sites is that Cousins is in the top 10 at quarterbacks now.
Yeah.
You remember before he was always like 14, 15, but now he's like 7.
And I think it is because he's playing with that carefree attitude. And again, there's like I think I've said it in the past, but you give Kirk time, and he's one of the better throwers of the football. Like take any quarterback out there, and he's in that top tier of throwers of the football. He has his other faults to him, but even that, his pocket presence has gotten better. He's moving more, like he's putting things together, but I think a lot of that is just, and it's nothing against Zimmer. Zimmer's a defensive guy who would want every single game to be 3-0. It's nothing against Zimmer, but there were 2 things he hated: guys who like were constantly hurt, like you can't make the club in the tub, that type of thing, and turnovers. Like if you make a turnover, that's the worst possible thing ever. Now it's you miss a turnover, or you miss a kick, it's not the end of the world because it's a team game. So it's almost like the Daniel Carlson effect from a few years ago, where he cost us that game in Green Bay. But this regime, I feel like, would have let him work through that, and there's a learning curve to it.
Well, I mean, yeah, to go off what you guys said, completely agree. I mean, when you have a boss, obviously we're not even athletes, but when you have a boss that believes in you, I mean, Bryant, you know what a big difference that makes, rather than a guy who pretty much publicly has said that he didn't want you on the team, period, from the get-go. I mean, when Kirk joined the team, he said publicly that he didn't agree with it, and he's pretty much never said otherwise. So I think that, and like you've talked about, Bryant, that when you're having fun with your teammates, it kind of just changes the mood of everything. And I feel like in years past, if he will make a mistake and throw an interception, it seems like he's in his head, and it's harder for him to brush that off. And then it can kind of be a snowball effect of mistakes that he makes. Whereas now it seems like he comes out, it's a new set of downs, and everything is in the past that just happened, because I think he knows that his teammates believe in him, and so does his coach.
That was the number one thing I was worried about after the second, inexplicable interception against Buffalo. Was I was like, oh my God, is he going to bounce back? Because there's been games in the past with this team where he doesn't bounce back, and you're like, oh, this is why people don't like him. And he did not have that on his agenda in Buffalo. It was the inverse. In fact, he just certifiably put it behind him and said, time to go win. Time to go get a couple miracles and go win the damn thing. Bryant, take us off air with your prediction, sir.
I believe the score would be like 23-17. I feel like it'd be like a decent game. But I feel like once again we should find a way to, pull this out, especially at home, being able to play in front of, our fans and everything, and be excited to be back. So I think they'll be able to pull it out.
Okay. Being able to play in front of Brian McKinney too, you got to take that into consideration.
Are you? You mentioned in our our pre-show show. Are you going to be signing autographs with fans, or is it like a closed session?
I think it's somewhere in a suite. I mean, they were giving me a little bit of details, asked me like to host a suite and sign some autographs.
Okay.
So it may be like a suite, like maybe like a sponsor's suite or something like that.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, just tweet about it when you know, because I'm sure people want to stop by.
Oh, okay.
Brian McKinney will be in the house. All right, we will be back on,
and hopefully at the tailgate, so people can.
I'll be there too. Oh, you just can't invite everybody.
I literally just said I'm worried about it.
We got seating capacity.
No,
at the
I'm
tailgate.
kidding. People come by and say hi. I just don't have room for everyone to warm up. That's all. But feel free to stop by.
All right, we'll be back Monday night to talk about the 9-1 Vikings or the 8-2 Vikings, neither of which sound too bad. All right, guys, take it easy.
All right, Skull, Dustin, I'll text you.